welcome to the November 17th meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Flossmoor. Thank you all for being here tonight. Just a reminder, this meeting is being streamed via Zoom for those who are unable to make it in person. When it's time for public comment, I will call from the public comment sign-in sheet, and we ask that you address the public from the podium over here, stating your name and address, that you also act with decorum, and that you direct your comments to the public body at large and not a single member of staff. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes per person for a total public comment time of 30 minutes. The time is 7:02. Clerk Porter, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Daggett.
Here.
Trustee Dorsey.
Here.
Trustee Lofton.
Here.
Trustee Mitros.
Here.
Trustee Mustafa.
Here.
Trustee Rogers.
Here.
And Mayor Nelson.
Present. Thank you so much. We have a quorum. First off, I don't have this on the agenda, but it is super important to us to recognize National Diabetes Month. And so I'd like to welcome Oliver Calderon into the front with me. And if he wants, he can bring his brothers, Emmett and Sullivan, and his mom, and his dad, and his grandmother if he likes. Oliver was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, but he has not let that define his life. He has been super busy. He is into acting. He's also into sports. Hi, how are you? And I just admire him so much for coming out here today to let other folks know that this is an important issue. He also has a fundraising page for type 1 diabetes that a cure can be found. On his page it says there's never a day off, so this is something serious that you have to pay attention to. And I just really admire you for the work that you do and that you keep moving forward and living your best life. You're a great kiddo. So let's read this. Whereas diabetes is a serious condition and a leading cause of death by disease that has reached epidemic proportions. And whereas more than 38 million American adults are living with diabetes and nearly 3,300 are diagnosed each day. And whereas during National Diabetes Month, we draw awareness to all forms of this dangerous condition, including type 1, type 2, gestational diabetes, and prediabetes. And whereas diabetes is a serious condition that can lead to blindness, heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, amputations, and other serious health problems. And whereas diabetes affects people from all walks of life, young and old alike, with minority populations in the United States having an increased risk for developing the disease. And whereas early detection and proper treatment of diabetes can lead to a longer, healthier life. And now, therefore, I, Michelle Nelson, Mayor of Flossmoor, do hereby proclaim November 2025 as National Diabetes Month in the Village of Flossmoor and call upon residents, school systems, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, healthcare providers, research institutions, and other interested groups to join in activities that raise diabetes awareness and help prevent, treat, and manage the disease. Thank you. Do you want to say anything to anybody?
Go Bears. Go Bears.
To the Western Avenue school nurse to display at school. I know she's been really helpful as you've gone through this journey. So good to see you. What did you have for dinner? Is that spaghetti?
All right. Now guys, we're going to take a picture. Oh, thanks. Thank you so much.
So you'll get one of those to nurse friends? Thank you so much.
Good to see you guys.
I don't think we've ever had a proclamation that much fun. Next up, I have an honorary resolution honoring Brian Tenza on his retirement, and I would like for Sergeant Brian Tenza to come up to the front now, please. This is pretty impressive, so listen closely. Whereas Brian Tenza was appointed to the Flossmoor Police Department on September 25th, 1995 as a police officer, and he was appointed to sergeant in March of 2003. And whereas Brian Tenza earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Illinois Wesleyan University and a Master of Science degree in public safety administration from Governor State University. And he is a graduate of the Northwestern University Center for Public Safety School of Police Staff and Command, and a graduate of Force Science Institute. Whereas Brian Tenza became a licensed emergency medical paramedic in the state of Illinois in 1997 and has maintained that certification. And whereas Brian Tenza was selected to be a member of the South Suburban Emergency Response Team in December of 2003. He has held every team position up to the rank of Assistant Team Commander and has further served as a school resource officer, DARE officer, Northeast Multi-Regional Training Instructor, and National Tactical Officers Association instructor. And whereas Brian Tenza has displayed compassion and a genuine desire to assist the public that exemplifies community policing and partnership. He has provided the village of Flossmoor with 30 years of professional, dedicated law enforcement service and now is retiring. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the village of Flossmoor that on behalf of the village administration and all residents of this community, we do hereby express to Brian Tenza our sincere appreciation for the contributions he has made to the community through the service that he has rendered, and be it further resolved that we do hereby extend to him and his family our best wishes for success, health, and happiness in the future. This November 17th day of 2025. Congratulations. Everybody who is here, everybody from the police department and the fire department who has worked with Sergeant Tenza for so many years. Also former police chief Pulik and also former police chief Kamleiter for being here to support one of your teammates. I really appreciate that. Did you have anything you wanted to say? Why am I not surprised? Thank you for your service. Incredible.
Thank you, Brian.
And again, thanks to all the families who are out supporting, especially all the kiddos. It's really heartwarming to see.
You can come hang out. He's good. We'll pull up a chair for him.
Next I got public comment, and the first on the list is Warren Engelberg. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name's Warren Engelberg, and I live in Flossmoor.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to continue with what I spoke about last time we were here. Let's apply our two examples of revolution and reform, American slavery and the Great Depression, to the United States under Trump right now. Let's look at the last 75 years since the Great Depression ended. Here in the U.S., the most important economic reality of the last 75 years has been the undoing of the reforms carried out by Roosevelt under the pressure of the socialist, communist, and labor movements of the United States. That's been our number one economic reality. The business community had been horrified by those reforms because, remember, who paid for Social Security and unemployment compensation? Who had to pay the minimum wage that was established? And who had to fund paying all those people getting government jobs? The answer? The business community, the wealthy people of America and the corporations that make them wealthy. You know, the top 10% that own 80% of the shares. They were taxed heavily. and they had to lend money to the government too. Whatever money they didn't get, lost by taxation, so they were doubly angry at all of this effort by their government to help the mass of people at their expense. So they went to work to undo the New Deal. They stopped government hiring of those millions of people. They got rid of that. They nibbled away at unemployment compensation. They nibbled away at Social Security from being a basic way for people to live. It's now a support, but only poor people actually live only on Social Security. It's too small, so they've cut back and forget about the minimum wage. The last time that was raised was in 2009, even though every year we've had rising prices since. Nothing has been raised in the minimum wage. We have behaved as a society savagely towards the poor people who depend on the minimum wage. We have undone the New Deal of the Great Depression, and it turned out corporations who had to pay for it and the rich people who had to pay for it got together and went to work to undo the reforms, and they have largely succeeded. That's what the Republican Party's #1 priority has always been. Change the tax laws, change the inheritance laws, do everything necessary for the corporations and the rich to reestablish their absolutely dominant position relative to the mass of people who have economic problems all the time. Yep, we're back to where we were before the Great Depression hit, and all the statistics show it. And there's a lesson for us here. Reformers are the people who want to make a system work better for average people. They do. They're sincere and they mean it. But they don't want to take the step that might guarantee it. Take the slave example, giving the slaves rules, establishing laws in slave societies. You must feed, clothe, shelter, and so forth, in these minimally decent ways. It's like the reforms of the Great Depression. They can be taken away if you leave the master-slave relationship intact, because the master has every incentive to undo the reforms that strugglers have been able to squeeze out of them in the first place. The employers of the Great Depression had every incentive, namely their profits, to undo the taxes they had to pay, the money they had to lend to the government, and so on. They didn't want this. They wanted the government to work for them, and they didn't want to have to pay for it. And so they undid the reforms. Okay, now let's examine our situation today. The United States succeeded in the aftermath of the Great Depression in ruling out revolution. Their argument, revolution was associated with the evil Soviet Empire. The government was very bad. The government was intrusive. The government was dictatorial. All ways to suggest don't go anywhere near where those revolutionaries are. So today, all that the Republicans and Democrats debate are reforms. Each of them has some reforms they want and some reforms they don't. But the unspoken agreement between them is never to suggest anything that might look, smell, taste, or seem to be revolutionary. The state must be kept out. Some of you have a whole philosophy of that called libertarianism. The state is bad. The state is evil. The state grabs power. The state. Where does that come from? It comes from that split between reform and revolution that came into being around the time of the Great Depression and has been fought ever since, mainly by people who either don't want any change, the so-called conservatives, or many of the reformers who want to keep everything within the realm of reform because they're terribly afraid of the revolution. Next time, I'll talk more about problems and their consequences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Engelberg. Next, I have Ms. Andrea Perry. Welcome.
I, like the board did at the October 20th board meeting, want to commend the village manager and her administration for their continued excellence in financial reporting. Although we are truly excited over this truly commendable feat, let's be realistic about what this impressive feat truly means and not expand it into what it does not mean or cover. Excellence in financial reporting is not the same as excellence in fiscal responsibility and spending. Let me say that again. Excellence in financial reporting is not the same as excellence in fiscal responsibility and spending. I caution our board and Flossmoor residents not to assume and equate them as meaning the same thing. They are not the same. This was clearly stated by Brian Lefebvre, the audit team representative that night. He stated, and I quote, their determination is not telling you you're effective at what you did. It's telling you that you reported properly what you did. After this statement, Trustee Mustafa aptly and adeptly asked him, what type of audit or review would we get if we were looking for a review of effectiveness? Since Mr. Lefebvre stated he was unsure of what that would be, I'll provide an answer to her question. To determine whether the village is effectively and efficiently using village resources, a performance audit, not a financial accounting audit, would be done. I posed Trustee Mustafa's question to Google. What type of audit would a municipality conduct to determine level of fiscal effectiveness? And AI gave me a more clearly accurate and succinct response that I would ever be able to give you given my time constraints. AI states, a municipality would use a performance audit or efficiency audit to determine its fiscal effectiveness. These audits examine how well a municipality is using its resources and achieving its goals by assessing programs and operations, unlike a financial audit, which primarily focuses on the accuracy of financial statements. An operational audit is also a type of comprehensive review that assesses the efficiency and effectiveness of business processes. Types of audits for fiscal effectiveness. Performance/efficiency audit evaluates government programs and operations to identify ways to reduce spending and improve resource use. Provides recommendations on how to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of services. Assesses how well an organization is operating economically, efficiently, and effectively. Operational audit, a comprehensive review of a municipality's systems and processes, focuses on the administrative efficiency and effectiveness of operations, digs deeper than a financial audit to assess overall performance. On the other hand, a financial audit examines financial records to ensure accuracy and reliability of financial statements, checks if financial transactions are recorded correctly and if standards are being followed. While essential, it doesn't directly measure fiscal effectiveness in the same way as a performance audit. My question that I leave the board with tonight is, when was our last performance audit and what was its determination? And when is the next? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. That's all I have for public comments, so I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there anything anybody would like to hold off for discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Porter, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Dagan.
Yes.
Trustee Dorsey.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Micros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Rogers. Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you so much. We don't have any formal reports of committees or commissions tonight, but I do want to thank members of the Community Relations Commission and Green Commission and also the volunteers we had who came out and helped plant a tall flag grove in the village of Flossmoor last weekend. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to take a few years, but it's going to be good. Next up, as action item, can I get a motion to approve the discussion of a request from Opulence Gallery for a consumption on-premise liquor license at 3313 Vollmer Road?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. Presenting, I have Village Manager Wachtel.
Thank you so much. Before you tonight, Board, is a request from Opulence Gallery. Ms. Diana Doss is here with us this evening, the owner of the establishment. This is an event space down in Flossmoor Commons that's been in business in Flossmoor since about 2020, I believe. And they provided a private event space that can be rented for various occasions. Right now, as part of their service, any sort of alcohol service provided is done through catering. And Ms. Doss is interested in holding a liquor license similar to the establishment she has in Orland Park. And essentially, they would run the liquor service through the business. After our conversation back and forth and taking a look at our code, if our board is interested in considering this new license, it would fit pretty neatly into a classification that we have called E for event, VPG, video gaming prohibited, which Ms. Doss understands and is agreeable to not permitting video gaming within her establishment. The only change, a couple of changes that I would recommend making to the municipal code if the board were agreeable to this liquor license would be one, currently the classification for that particular classification for weekdays has a termination of 10 p.m. They are asking that be terminated at 11 p.m., which is similar to other classifications that the village has in its code. And second of all, since it's more, the use is more similar to a restaurant or a bar service, I would recommend that the annual fee be comparable to our Class A or B license, which is at $1,500 annually. Currently, that particular class is established at $500, given a previous user and the type of events that his establishment was hosting. So with that, that's kind of a little bit of the background. Ms. Doss is here this evening to answer any questions you may have, and I'll turn it back to the mayor to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the background. Welcome, Ms. Doss. It's great to see you. You have a beautiful event space here in the village, and we're so thankful that you chose us for your business. I'm going to turn it over to the trustees for any questions that they might have regarding this license, and I'll start with Trustee Lofton.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and welcome. I too have had the opportunity to attend events at Opulence, and I think you do a fine job. Appreciate that very much. Beautiful establishment. I noticed in your discussion you indicated that clients will typically start setting up 8 a.m. in the morning. Am I reading that correctly? And the events will go on till midnight. That's what you would normally have.
Depending on the type of event, it could be as early as 8 a.m., but typically those are for like brunches and things of that nature. But typically the average event is a 6-hour event. So if someone were to start at 8, they would be out by 2. It would be an afternoon type of event. Generally the events typically start between 4 and 5, and they can go as late as midnight. Generally shutting down at 11 and out by 12.
In your Orland Park establishment, do you operate under a different license? I know you have a state license, but Orland Park has what kind of event license do you have there?
It's pretty much the same type of event license that we are requesting at this location, where individuals are allowed to purchase their packages as well as along with the services that we offer.
And time-wise, it's the same?
The time-wise is the same. The only difference there is the time is a little earlier. It is 11 o'clock. Out by midnight, yes. We shut down at midnight.
Well, I'll ask the question, which would you prefer? Is midnight what's been happening? You like to do that? Or
what we would like to do, we would love to do midnight, but we understood after talking to Bridget that typically the cutoff is 10 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. However, we would really like to have that time extended because in the summertime, people are on vacation. Sometimes they start their weekend on a Thursday or a Wednesday. So we would like to have it by midnight, but we are absolutely open to 11 as well.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that question is you've had this establishment for 5 years now.
Yes.
And obviously you've had events that go to midnight.
Yes.
Now, there's a certain clientele that are probably going to come back to you. How will this affect you moving forward, knowing that this license requires you to be essentially on a 11 o'clock quit at midnight, you're done, or 11
So I'm not clear with your question.
Well, you have had events that have gone till midnight.
Yes,
And this license will only allow you to operate till 11, if I understand the license correctly.
Let me clarify that. So currently, that particular class for weekdays terminates at 10 p.m. And that would be Monday through Thursday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday go till midnight. And upon speaking with Ms. Doss, we talked about whether she wanted something past 10 o'clock. Other classifications terminate for weekdays as late as 11 p.m. And so that is why we brought forward the 11 p.m. request. Certainly the board could do something different if you wanted to extend that to midnight on weekdays, you certainly could. But currently the only request would be for the termination of the weekdays to change from 10 p.m.
And we don't allow anybody, does anybody else have a license that allows them to go till midnight on Monday through Thursday?
Not currently, no.
Okay, well, those are the parameters of the license, and if you're comfortable with that, fine.
yes, we are. The 11 o'clock, correct? Or
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday, 11, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Dorsey.
Good evening.
Good evening.
When you use a caterer for these services, what hours are you seeing? Do they stop at 10 o'clock and then like a last call?
We typically don't do like a last call kind of situation.
So you serve up to the hour?
No, so there's a shut off time. So 1 hour prior to the individuals exiting the premises, the event is over. So there's a 1 hour window where individuals, the event is over. So there's no music, nothing is going on except for cleanup and exiting the premises.
Okay. So that 1 hour, are we then talking midnight and 1 o'clock by the time people are exiting? I'm just trying to make sure I understand. When will the liquor sales end?
The liquor sales will end when the event is over. Mm-hmm. So if the event is over at 11, then that's where the liquor would stop being served.
So you do serve up until the exit?
Yes, because she's a bartender too.
I'll go ahead and clarify.
Okay, excuse me, just
Sure.
this is Michael, my business partner, and also my daughter.
Hello. Okay, so for example, if say we're having a birthday party, the booking, the clients are in the space maybe from 6 p.m. to midnight. That's the entire time that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
The actual party, which would be the actual liquor sales, would be 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay.
And then that last hour would be the bar shuts down, they're cleaning up, they're getting out of the space, and they would be out by midnight.
All right. What policies do you have that would prevent someone from ordering that last drink and walking out the door with it?
Gotcha. So typically what we'll do is pretty much about 10 minutes prior to the event being over, we have dimmers in there, so we'll start to turn the lights up. The host is already aware of what time alcohol has to stop being served. There's a nice discussion beforehand. We go over all the rules and all the regulations, so the host is very clear of what time alcohol has to stop being served. If there are ever any problems, we always have security, and then also we get the host involved and we let them know. Your guests will not be served any alcohol after this time. That's just how it has to be.
That's what I was looking for. So even though we're talking about certain hours, there's still a cutoff point before that hour.
Yes, for sure.
Right, and I think that's important. You know, on an on-premise license, you don't want to risk that by having someone take their on-premise purchase beverage
Exactly.
out the door. And I think you're at more of a risk of doing that if you serve up into the hour.
Sure.
Correct. And also, security ensures that no drinks are allowed to leave the premises
Okay,
Or
Great.
the threshold.
or cross the threshold. Yes.
thank you. Great business partner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Daggett.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming in. So one thing, just to commend you, you started in 2020. That was not an easy time to start an event venue.
No.
So you guys have had to work really hard keep this thing going and get it to where it is now. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally understand you being able to have the liquor license because you pay such a high percentage to the vendors that are bringing it in for you. To be able to retain that and help you be even more successful in that location makes perfect sense to me. I have no issue with the time as you've put forth. So yeah, I think it sounds like you guys have been doing a great job, and I would welcome this.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Rogers.
My train of thought. I was gonna ask, so with the serving of the liquor, it's actually served by your staff?
Yes.
Glasses, bottles, how is it served?
So currently, we serve all of our alcohol. If the only bottles that we'll typically have are like beer bottles. Other than that, all the alcohol served cups, plastic cups, no glass. The bartenders are licensed, certified, and insured through us, or not insured through us, but through our company. And we ensure that they're trained properly so that if anyone's overserved or anything like that, they're able to maneuver properly.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, trustee Mustafa.
So just for clarification, and this is possibly, it possibly will sound like the same question, but you give the example of an event that is scheduled from 6 to 12, for example. Events that are scheduled from 6 to 10, 6 to 9, alcohol would stop when?
So our weekend events are always 6-hour blocks, a minimum of 6 hours. If the event is say earlier in the day, the alcohol is done being served. So I'll explain it this way. In a typical 6-hour booking, your actual event is typically 4 hours. The first hour is your setup time, typically, and the last hour is your cleanup time. So that 4-hour window is when alcohol would be served.
Okay, so there are no exceptions, there are no shorter events where you would be cutting off sooner. I'm just wondering, in line with the questions about serving after the event is over, if my event ended not 6 hours, but 5. So I had the 5th hour as cleanup, but my event was only 3 hours. Alcohol would cut off an hour before the event was over. Is that the way you would work it?
So say if you're planning to only be in the space for the 5 hours and your event is the 3, alcohol would be served for the 3 hours.
Okay.
So even if you all are still there and you're cleaning up, our bartenders are not allowed to serve it when the event is not operating.
Okay, thank you, that clarifies it. I'm sorry if that sounded
No,
Yes, I have no problem with this request.
Thank you, trustee Myers.
It makes it extremely hard to get rid of a business partner when she's your daughter.
It does.
Okay, I'm more interested in the business side of this. So this will enhance your business. So what I'm hearing is, wedding package, you get the basic or the premium bar package. And so, and this is good, I think. I'm in favor of this. I'm not, but it will enhance what you guys do, which will make you a more stable business partner for Flossmoor and allow you to survive and compete with the competition out there. And there are a lot of event spaces, right? So, and if, to Roz's question, if someone wanted to cut off earlier, they could certainly do that. I mean, we're at 9 o'clock and everyone's out of there, or we just want to serve beer and wine, or this and that. If you have any problems, even with the caterers bringing in the booze, which I'm sure they do, if you have any problems with crowds or crowd control, Carl, do we know?
No, over the past 4 years, we don't have 15 calls of service there, and it's nothing that bad.
Well, I am in favor of doing anything in Flossmoor that doesn't hurt the community, but will enhance your ability to make money and be a good, thriving business. So therefore, I am absolutely in favor of this. I applaud you looking forward and trying to come up with, it's like buying property or whatever. How do businesses expand? We buy the building we're in. You're just expanding into the liquor business, and I applaud you. And good luck, and I'm all in favor of this.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions or comments, Clerk Porter, would you please call the roll on this action item?
Trustee Rogers.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Michaels.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Dorsey.
Yes.
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Next, we have a discussion of the 2025 tax levy. And at the end of the discussion, we are looking for the board's direction. So I'm not asking for any motions because we're just looking for direction. And later on in December, we'll go ahead and vote on the tax levy ordinance. And tonight, presenting, we have our finance director, Ann Navoa. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. It's that time of year again to discuss the tax levy estimate. I do want to preface that in my report, I stated the estimate was based off of preliminary data of the 2024 extension, but we did receive the final tax levy extension on Friday, November 14th, and I did check the numbers and there were no changes, so therefore this report is based off final data. Before getting to the weeds of the options I presented in the board packet, I'm going to give a brief presentation of the EAV, since the tax levy estimate is based off of the 2024 extended levy, and 2024 is year 2 of Cook County's reassessment cycle. In my report in the board packet, I included prior tax year EAV details for information, as well as tax levy data history. The 2024 village EAV resulted in a negative 0.6% decrease. This translates to roughly $1.8 million decrease. This is still the second largest EAV in village history, and only the 4th time the EAV of the village of Flossmoor has been over $300 million. It is important to note that unlike many other taxing bodies, the village does not take advantage of the anticipated increase or decrease in EAV due to reassessment years. You'll see on this slide 5 years worth of Flossmoor EAV data. The bold numbers are reassessment years. When looking at the EAV history on page 74 of the board packet, we can predict that the EAV will most likely decrease again for the 2025 levy, as that is the second year of a reassessment cycle. This slide up here shows the inverse relationship between the EAV and the tax rate. The 2024 tax rate of 2.543 indicates how much of our levy dollars takes up the entirety of the tax base. So our $7.7 million 2024 tax levy is only 2.5% of the $304 million EAV. I wanted to include this table in my presentation to reiterate that the large increase in EAV we did see last year does not directly correlate with village receiving more revenue dollars. This is a summary of basically what I just talked about. Like I said, the EAV will probably go down again next year. It's the second year of the 3-year reassessment cycle. And then in 2026, we're up for a reassessment again, and it's pretty hard to predict what we'll see happen to the EAV. I mean, I don't think anyone predicted a 37% increase last year for our EAV. So, all right. So let's talk about the two options I'm presenting to the board for the 2025 tax levy estimate. I'm presenting two options, and you will see on the screen a summary of those two options, ranging from a 0% increase for the village to a 4.8% increase. Each option has a slide that will portray the impact on homeowners in relation to what we passed here tonight and the correlation with the movement of EAV. All options include the library levy that was discussed by the library board last week. The library board discussed a levy with a 3.93% increase and included new property growth. All right, option one. This option mirrors the 2024 extended levy. This option does not take into consideration inflation, pension increases per our actuaries. One thing to note is the village If the village selects this option, the county does automatically add a loss and cost factor to each levy. The default standard is 3%, 5% for debt service. This is done to compensate for post-issuance tax bill adjustments and unpaid taxes. The loss and cost factor is intended to assist in seeing the taxing bodies receive close to the full amount of their levies requested. Therefore, even if we submitted a 0% increase, we would ultimately see a small increase in our levy dollars. Okay, this is the valuable information. So you'll see on the slide, in the top row, you'll see home values ranging from $250,000 to $550,000. I also included EAV, whether it increases or decreases on the first column there, in increments of $5 million. The first column in each box is the increase or decrease in EAV allocated to each household. The second column is the dollar change for the tax impact. And as you'll notice, if the EAV goes down, the dollar amounts go up due to that inverse relationship between tax rate and EAV. When calculating these estimates, I also did consider a $10,000 homeowner's exemption for more accuracy. So if you look at this slide, we look at $350,000 value of a home, in that middle, if the EAV stays stagnant, the tax bills will go up $108 estimated. Okay. All right, option 2. This option is aligned with the village past practice. This option takes the prior year extended levy, multiplies it by the lesser of 5% or the CPI at December 31st for the prior year, and adds it in an estimate for new property growth. We're using the inflation rate of December 31st, which was 2.9%. We're estimating new property growth at $150,000. We should see the impact of Rainbow Cone come in this next year. This approach gets us to a 4.84% increase. This option does provide full funding for both police and fire pension increases. The recommended levy amounts per the contracted actuaries for both police and fire pension are based off assumptions that are appropriate, and the municipal compliance reports for each pension is included in your packet. And you'll see here the chart that I just discussed. So we'll stick with $350,000. If we go with option 2 and the EAV stays stagnant, you'll see a $230 increase per home. Remind you that is split in half each installment. Okay. My recommendation is to follow village past tax levy strategy and go with option 2. This option results in a total 4.7% increase when factoring the library levy. With option 2, we are capturing new property growth and covering the pension increases. Property tax revenue is typically an average of 40% of our operating revenues in the village budget. Maximizing the levy makes sense to continue the trend as the village has always done. If you turn to page 77 in the packet, you will find option 2 broken down by levy category. The line item amounts are based off estimates and assumptions of which I've listed on the slide. The small decrease in EAV following the 37% increase last year caused corporate fire protection and police protection to be below ceiling rates allowed by the statute. So basically there'll be some unlevied dollars that we won't be able to capture due to the ceiling within the ceiling of statute being a non-home rule community. If option 2 is agreed upon by the board, I will be presenting to the board a resolution acknowledging PTEL, which directs the county which lines to reduce in our 2025 tax levy. All right, next steps. Since we are below the 5%, we don't need a public hearing, so I will come before you on December 15th with the resolution directing Cook County which lines to reduce, and an ordinance adopting the levy. That's all I have for you. Any questions? There's a lot of information.
Thank you so much, great job. While I don't like to spend more money, I don't like to see more money coming out of my pocket, it is important to keep up with inflation. And you mentioned earlier that 40% of our budget comes from property tax revenue, which is our single largest source of income for this village, for operating this village. So if we were to not keep up with inflation, I'm just thinking about services that would suffer and places that we would have to cut back. And I don't know that residents would want to see any cuts. I think residents really appreciate the operations of our village, and they love living here. So with that, we're going to take questions from the board. I'll start with Trustee Day.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is one of those fun topics, talking about money. There's what I want to do, and there's what I feel like we have to do. I would love to lower everybody's taxes. That would be fantastic. But we're in a situation where that doesn't make sense. And the question I asked you before the meeting was, what's the net difference if we choose to go with option 2 from option 1? If we go with option 1, it's $375,000 out of our budget. And I just can't wrap my head around how we would absorb that. So though I would like to go with option 1, I feel like at this point we don't have a choice, because we just can't, like you said, it's going to impact services, it's going to impact the quality of the people we're able to employ. So as much as I'd hate to do it, I feel like option 2 is the way that I have to say that we need to go. So, and then keep pushing the economic development. Because it's good to see that 150,000 coming in from, that's good. So the more of that we do, maybe in later years, and I always get in trouble, I get looks when I say this from people, maybe we'll be able to go with a lower option or even cut it at times. So
I should say that in our 2024 extended levy final data, we had $2.9 million of new property recognized, which definitely helped us.
That's great. Yeah, we just got to stay on that. So my direction, is that what we're asking for?
Yes.
Is to go with option 2.
Thank you. Trustee Rogers.
Okay, so you mentioned the increase that the homeowners were paid. For option 1 would be $108 for the increase. Option 2 would include monies from Rainbow Cone in the future. And if we didn't go with option 2, we would lose some services.
Yeah, most likely. I think that since property taxes is a huge percent of our operating revenue, if we don't maximize where we can, being a non-home rule community, it unfortunately will impact our budget significantly.
For the services that would be affected.
That would honestly be a board decision.
And just for some context, we've historically always disclosed what we call the zero increase. If the board decides to leave the levy flat, recognizing the county still applies the Boston cost percentages to that, we still like to disclose what that would look like to the board. But certainly, as a non-home rule community, when you do not maximize the levy, those are dollars you can never capture again. They are left on the table. So whereas a home rule community can ebb and flow their levy to what their costs and what their needs are, we have one chance to get it. And so, for example, you might sit here and think, well, Rainbow Cone's been open a while. What do you mean we haven't captured that money? Or Oasis Hospice is another recent economic development project that just fully came out of the tax rolls this past year. Sometimes it can take anywhere from 1 to 3 years for the full value of that property to come onto the tax rolls. And so it becomes a little bit of strategy and a little bit of a game, really, to try to anticipate what year it's going to hit, how much. You want to try to be liberal in trying to figure out that dollar amount without being so great that you are cut back so much that your budget isn't in line with your levy. So We have typically about 3 years to capture the full value of a new development. Sometimes we're lucky that it all hits in a year, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3. Again, we'll see Rainbow Cove probably another year.
Yep, this year.
Coming forward in the 26 levy, we'll put another factor for it into the new property growth until we kind of see the full value of it come onto the books. So it takes a bit to see those dollars hit. And really, I would say, you know, if part of the strategy with economic development is to alleviate the pressures on residential, the residential taxpayers, you're going to want to include those new property dollars in your tax levy. It just makes sense.
Do you have a direction you recommend?
Leaning towards 2, but I think I need to look at this some more.
Thank you. Trustee Mustafa.
One of the things I appreciate almost more than the numbers is the text that you provide, the descriptions you provide about what's going on. And I just want to ask some questions.
Sure.
On page 63 in the section 2025 Consumer Price Index, there are a number of factors woven into this description of that topic. And there are other factors in a previous page, but I'm just going to list them.
Sure.
Rising costs, low CPI, declining property values, large pension increases, small construction growth in recent years. There may be other factors, but those caught my eye. So we know that right now we're affected by rising costs, also expenses, low CPI, declining property values, large pension increases, and small construction growth in recent years. I am raising this because I asked the question, when does belt tightening planning begin? So even if we never have to use a contingency plan, when should we start making a checklist of things that could be done or evaluated? Going back to the public comment by Mrs. Perry, when do we look at a performance audit to kind of put a small check opposite things that need to be reviewed so that we know if the time comes because of these factors, we can dig in and find out where possible costs can be reduced, expenses can be reduced, or belt tightening. Because my time on the board, I'm really, really respectful of the fiscal responsibility in reporting, and the village is run very, very well. But with the trend that's implied in many of the reports we get from the finance department, not only from you, but under Director Bordui, this may not go on forever. And with us being landlocked, like just 4 square miles, even if we had exhausted all the economic development opportunities in the acres we have left to develop, there could come a time when we have to actually look at things to change. When do we start making that list of belt tightening? When do we start looking at freezing salaries? When do we start looking at not cutting services, but evaluating services? When do we look at money spent on quality of life activities that everybody loves? We have to do that. What do you think about my question?
I do think that is all a board decision. I think that some of the things that we do every year, such as the 5-year analysis every 2 years, and the mid-year review, and the in-depth budget review when we're, projecting the numbers based off of, facts. That's when a checklist or a discussion amongst the board could take place.
I think that's
my professional opinion is I don't think we're there yet.
I don't either, and that's why I stress, I'm very respectful of the fiscal health that I've been a part of discussing and voting on. But in a small municipality, there's only so much we can develop, and only so much we can do.
And every spring we do dedicate floor meetings to budget review, and village manager Wachtell is always asking us which laundry list of things do we want to consider keeping, which things do we want to consider cutting, and we have had to make some tough decisions in the past with you on this board, included in those decisions. So definitely spring budget season, that's a great place where we annually take a look at that budget and see where we can belt tighten.
Yes, we do, and I underline that perhaps our discussions need to be comprehensive to include not just we're talking about the budget, but bring in the levy discussion theoretically at the same time. Like certain things that we talk about related to budget, how could they affect the levy in the months to come? Because we don't want to look at things in a silo and then separately talk about levy, separately talk about, I think we need to pull them together. I vote for option 2. I support option 2. I'm just concerned that your candor is very helpful, and I'd like to more seriously discuss those considerations.
And I think that the 5-year analysis is exactly the type of comprehensive review that you're seeking and that we entertain. And that's really the public discussion that happens with respect to the host of options, both from a revenue and an expense standpoint. But annually at various points throughout our budget process and our our internal review of expenses and our budget to actuals, we are constantly as an executive team taking a look at how can this be done more efficiently, effectively. How can we be leveraging things like technology? How can we be tracking the performance of our effectiveness? That is happening certainly at the management level as where it should happen. And when those types of discussions need to come up to the village board, we're certainly bringing them before you. I think when we're talking about any sort of comprehensive redefinition of the type of service that you're providing to the community, that is definitely at the level of a board discussion with staff support so that we can provide you the type of analysis to make that discussion. But those aren't decisions that are being made in a vacuum at a staff level.
Can I add one thing, Manager Wachtell as well? As staff goes through these exercises, the 5-year analysis sometimes happens in other villages that I've worked for only as an internal review. The village of Flossmoor has continuously made a transparent effort to do those in front of the board and in public, and not just as a note, because the village actually staff does, in direct terms, plan for the worst, and look at those projections and look at how each department would adjust based upon a worst case scenario, which sometimes is the 5-year analysis. So those exercises are done professionally as a staff every 2 years by the direction of our finance director, and that extra step of bringing to the board in a discussion base is not done everywhere, and it's done here for a particular reason. And I think that kind of transparency also shows you the kind of work that's being done often by staff, just to kind of let you know about worst case scenario planning, that kind of stuff. So hope that makes sense too.
Thank you, and thank you, Village Manager, for the extra information.
Thank you, Trustee Mitros.
All we do is plan for the worst. There's no doubt about it. The mid-year review, the 5-year plan. I hear talk tonight about performance review. Well, I would argue that every 2 years there's a performance review. That's election night. And if we weren't performing, the bond rating would be sinking, and that's not. We perform, we plan, and that's all we do in terms of planning for the future or planning for this disaster that's out there. 93, I think, % of our budget is in salaries. So how do you plan for that? We would start reducing staff. And I'm not hearing anyone out there clamoring and saying, get rid of the medics or the police department or the fire department, or I want less public works. Our citizens, no one has ever come up to me and said that. So we move forward. And as City Manager Wachtel said, if we don't capture what we can on a yearly basis, it's lost forever. And we're always behind. We can't do that because we're too small. And we already have budget consequences. The water fund, it's never where it should be. So it takes a lot to run a village and run it well. We do that. And I would choose option 2 because that's the prudent thing to do. And I don't want to start cutting staff. I like our performance levels. I like what I hear about, having an ambulance there in a couple minutes or a minute, having the police around, having public works do the work they do. So I'm in favor of option 2.
Thank you. Trustee Lofton.
Well, I too don't want to cut staff, nor do I want to see our services decline either. I think residents appreciate the work that our departments do, and I don't want to see that hurt as much as possible. I realize we have the budget and a direction to help us to do those things. But clearly, when I look at the options that are in front of us and what the impact will be on residents, for which I'm one as well, I'd have to say option 2 is probably the better, most prudent way to go at this juncture. If discussion is needed, I think I'd probably stick with that moving forward.
Thank you. Trustee Dorsey.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't lose sight that this is not a unique scenario that's happening with the village of Flossmoor. I think let's not lose sight of what's going on in our nation right now. I'm going to start off with saying that this is kind of a no-brainer of where we need to go. Option 2 is that. But when we talk about future planning and when we start that future planning, that tighten the belt planning, I say we start today, right? It's never too early to start preparing for these projections, especially as we see the way that the economy is going. I do agree. I think all I've heard was, even though we're at maximum police numbers now, let's get more, right? And that's what I hear from the residents today. So no one is saying cutting. But I will say that before we get to cutting or reducing, let's place some scenarios of what if we do a freeze? What happens with that? Just so that we're prepared for those in the event. But this is not unique to us. I will say this, and we don't want to continue to beat this, but when I look at performance evaluation, there's other things that we have voted on in this village that is a performance-related evaluation. When we have all of the grant funding that assist us in the things that we're doing to enhance the beautification and the needed construction. That's a performance measure. When we have our fire chief finding ways to receive revenue from the trade-in of old vehicles and how to levy it, that's performance. So even though that isn't happening on a monthly basis, it is happening. We just have to pay attention to those two lines. So, when I think it's a privilege for when I get the opportunity to review the bills, right? And I know that sounds crazy, but literally, I do think it's a privilege because it gives me the opportunity to look at the efficiency in which we're working as a village. And then when I see the work that our public works is doing, our police and fire are doing, to help offset some of those additional costs. To me, that says nothing but that's performance, right? So as unfortunate as it is, I don't like spending more money for anything, right? And I think we're doing a great job of, even though we have limited ability to continue with the expansion of other businesses, we're doing that. I think since I've sat on this board, I can't think of the number of opportunities of economic development that has been brought to us, even things that we've opened on, downtown Flossmoor. So I think we're trying to maximize the abilities to offset some of the levy. But knowing the way the nation's economy is, I don't see another option but option 2.
Thank you so much. So you have the direction you need, and we'll see you back in December.
Oh, one more question. Is there any, sorry, is there any possibilities that as is listed, that there may be a change in option 2? Are we pretty sound that the way we've identified option 2?
That's how it will be.
Okay.
Yep, as long as the library board still has to go and vote, I believe, in December. If they change, you might see a slight change in the bottom line number, but as far as the village, what I presented is what will go.
Thank you.
And keep in mind that what is levied and what is extended are two different things.
Yep.
So not until the summer of 26 will the 25 levy be extended through the county.
Maybe.
God willing. And, at that time, and we see this every year, because of tax caps, we're not able to capture all of the dollars that we possibly could justify capturing because of tax caps. So not only can we not do it at the front end because of the formula and the way that it works, we get further cut back at the time of the extension. And so, it's a constant, we're constantly chasing those dollars, and that's why economic development, sales tax, the state income tax, all those other larger non-property tax revenues are so vital to be able to keep current village services continuing to be provided, because as you know, those costs aren't going down.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. We do not need to go into executive session tonight, so I'll ask for other business. Trustee Mustafa.
Thank you, Mayor. I have, I believe, 2 topics. I wanted to thank the Homewood-Flossmoor Chronicle for their article related to the ban. Homewood passed a ban on immigration enforcement activity on village property, and it prohibits federal immigration authorities from using any village-owned property for civil immigration enforcement. Federal agents are prohibited by law from staging and processing or conducting civil immigration operations on village parking lots and buildings, including parks. So this is in line with state laws. I understand it's not something that Homewood developed as a law, but they passed a resolution to identify the village property as within legal alternatives to prohibit activity. And in the article, they talk about providing places that are safe so residents know to expect that on this property these activities wouldn't happen. So I'm just bringing up this evening, is this a resolution that we can consider to be, so to speak, in partnership with our neighboring community? And even though it's not, it's not a law because we don't have the right to pass a law, but can we consider a similar resolution for Flossmoor?
We talked about this. We saw what Homewood did, and although we are covered by the state law, there were a few points of concern. For me, the biggest one was the fact that if ICE does show up on Homewood's property, there's not much Homewood can do about that. And so I don't want to create a false sense of security for folks, to make them feel like they can be someplace and they will be safe when there's really not a good way to ensure that. I don't want anybody to be in danger and not think that they're safe where they're not.
Is there anything we might want, I know we put on the website, I had brought it up, and I thank staff for doing that, putting the information on the website, but is there any way that we would consider reinforcing our commitment to public safety? We know if unmarked cars swarm the village parking lot, I'm not going to go out there and wave a resolution at them. I mean, it's just not that kind of deal. Is there anything that we could publish as a resolution just to commit to the public safety? Because we are showing residents where we stand, so to speak.
Well, we put out something about being governed by the Illinois Trust Act, which I think is a good statement, but I don't know that there's anything else. Village Manager Wachtel, did you have any other ideas?
I know we have expanded some information on our website with respect to immigration resources for the public, and you can find that, I believe, under our community on our website. And that also takes you to various links and resources that the public might find helpful. Assistant Manager Rowe, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just something that we looked at the end of October board to see what was updated on the both Cook County's website as well as the Illinois Human Relation now IDHR. Sorry. Human Services, Illinois Department of Human Services. Sorry, I lost me for a second. They've been using a couple partners that they've worked with. Traditionally, the village tries to not recommend sites that are not by another intergovernmental partner. So if the state points to something or the county points to something, then we feel comfortable and confident doing that because it's something we can share. And one of the things they shared that they started sharing with this immigration information hub, and shows how to get legal help, get support in crisis, and learn your rights. And it's produced by legal and immigration advocates, and that's in partnership with the Illinois Department of Human Services and the City of Chicago. So the Governor Pritzker's office put out, as well as a state, the City of Chicago. After talking to Carl Addison, I ran that by him as well and said, hey, this is unique for the Illinois Department of Human Services to do a link like this. What can you tell me about this? And he goes, as long as you're not advocating for residents to do something illegal, I feel comfortable doing this or putting this up there. So we updated that website with those different things. And Trustee Mustafa had a good point probably about a month and a half ago, where she said, hey, I put it in this term inside that, and it didn't pop up, or maybe it was a resident who put that up. Then we cross-linked different things. So if you put ICE, immigration, something along those lines, in the search results, that'll pop up. But the resources that are in there are the Illinois Trust Act, stuff from the Illinois Attorney General's office, Cook County, as well as Know Your Rights materials that came from those organizations. So that's what's been updated as of the end of October.
Thank you for that. So just one more follow-up question. Maybe this is Attorney Miller who would be able to advise. We know we have the Trust Act, and we know we have things on the website. Does Homewood's resolution give them more legal grounds to sue if ICE would appear on village property?
I guess no. The short answer is no. So I actually, and I've talked to the mayor and Bridget about this, had a couple instances with ICE. One of the evenings actually that I wasn't here, I had to be at a meeting where we actually had an ICE incident where ICE actually was on village grounds. And they, essentially what happened was that ICE was driving around, the citizen decided she was going to turn the table, so she turned around to kind of follow them around, and it happened actually right at the parking lot of the village property. Became a very kind of really intense incident, and you know, it did not, that village department wasn't able to stop ICE from doing what they were doing. What was not going to happen was you weren't going to have, say in this instance, the Flossmoor, we'll say Homewood, since they have the Homewood police go and interfere with the ICE interactions. So it became something that was not really a situation that, one, doing the resolution gave them more rights, and then two, the idea of that false sense of security that you have this resolution is something that concerns me, because quite honestly, your police aren't going to, they're going to make sure that they're safe, they're going to try to make sure that the citizens are safe, but they're not going to interfere with the ICE operations. Generally speaking, I haven't seen a situation where we've seen the police department, despite these resolutions, do that. So for my purposes, I hate to say like the resolution is only worth the paper it's on, but kind of resolution is only worth the paper it's on. In regards to the website things, I posed today to one of our attorneys. One of our newest attorneys was an immigration attorney for the feds for the last 5 years. That's what he did until a few months ago, because they were getting emails, and he's like, I better start looking for another job. And we talked about the posting. His concern, he likes what you have on the Illinois Trust Act and what you have on the Illinois AGs from that link there. He's concerned by putting more, because the immigration is ever changing. You'd almost have to be updating it if there was injunctions for that. So I guess for that purpose there, I would say you don't have more rights. The short answer is no, just by Homewood doing that, they don't have more rights than you do. And two, I'm really concerned that false sense of security, that people think, well, the police are going to come out and stop ICE, and generally speaking, I haven't seen that happen at all. Obviously it's a very intense, scary situation. Maybe we're lucky, they're starting to focus their efforts in Charlotte, and they're actually getting about as bad as we got it here. So it's, but yeah, I would say the short answer is no, and I think what you're doing is great right now, quite honestly.
Okay, thank you, that clarifies it. So the other topic I wanted to ask about is, do I remember correctly that the retail coach contract has a provision for them to do an update? It's actually in the contract.
I believe that's correct.
Okay, do we know when they'll be doing that?
That has not yet been scheduled.
Okay, so I don't recall, when is that contract up?
It runs with the fiscal year, so it'll be up in May.
And last year they did one right around budget season.
Which would be February?
In the spring, February, March.
Okay. Which would give us enough time to consider whether we would retain them or not, right? Okay. Is it possible that you could support a board discussion in case we do decide to not renew them? What would our alternative plans be to support economic development, and that we'd have that discussion in advance of their presentation so that we're ready to come up with an alternative approach? For example, could we form a commission, a task force that would work with you, Mayor, on economic development, work with the other village staff? That would be a commission similar to CRC or Green or the other commissions, and they would, roll up their sleeves, dig in. They'd be professionals with the background that would support all the work. They'd be, commercial realtors, engineers, urban planners, whatever expertise you thought was relevant, and actually have time for that group to work with Retail Coach as a transition period so that we'd be ready if we let Retail Coach go.
That was a lot. So the way I've seen those types of commissions work in other villages, they actually slow down economic development, and you still have to have the staff to support that. So I don't know who we would have who could support adding another commission. And all of the deadlines and public notice and meeting minutes and whatnot. So that would be, I think, an addition to what we're already doing. I don't know that that is a cheaper option.
Well, we wouldn't, those in staff who are already working on economic development would not, you know, whoever, if it's village manager, if it's you, if it's assistant village manager, you're already putting in those hours.
Right.
There, on the 8 websites that I visited, just a quick and dirty, 7 of them actively have either a commission or a department. 6 of them were in the Southland. I even looked at Libertyville. So they included Olympia Fields, Libertyville, Homewood, Hazel Crest, Glenwood, Richton Park, Calumet City. And they all have either, maybe they have 5 to 8 people on a commission or in a department. For example, Libertyville has 8 members, 3-year staggered terms, Homewood 7, et cetera, et cetera. So since staff and you are already spending time, I'd like to throw it out as a consideration that you would not spend extra time, but you would have a dedicated group of people to take work away from you.
It doesn't really decrease the amount of work that we have to do. And right now, Village Manager Wachtell is also performing in a role where she is basically helping me right lockstep with me on economic development and working with potential folks. So while I think, and also in talking with other mayors about their commissions, it slows things down. And so, and I think we have a lot of great residents who I'm already talking with who maybe they would be on a commission, maybe they're too busy, I don't know. But there's a lot of great residents who already reach out with ideas and opportunities for economic development. And actually, in December, one resident with ties to a large commercial development, he brought that business forward, and I'm hoping by December that we can present a plan to the board in closed session, get your support and move forward with an agreement with them. So we are already doing that stuff.
It's just not a formal.
It's not a formal, and we could, but it's another expense. It doesn't save us any money in the long run.
All right, thank you.
Here, if I could add something to this, that discussion, it occurs to me that Retail Coach and other economic development affiliates of theirs have a strong marketing campaign as part of their approach. And in our village, we have some pretty smart people involved in marketing that may be an advantage should we decide to go with a commission or just have some sort of advisory in that area. Marketing would be a key in hunting down the development prospects and the commercial prospects that exist all over the country that would be interested in our village, and the acres that we have to offer.
Yeah, and I think we've all talked about this before, that Retail Coach, the information that they put on the Retail 360 website that's hosted on our site has been invaluable. And that's the reason why we've gotten, I think a key reason why we've gotten so much traction is their work and the demographics and the numbers that they're presenting that we can easily hand to somebody else. And I don't see that happening any other way than to have somebody like a Retail Coach. That doesn't happen with a commission on a commission level. They've actually, Retail Coach or something like them has to run those numbers and put all of that together for us. Thank you. Trustee Rogers.
I actually don't have anything to add. Hope everybody enjoys their evening.
Thank you. Trustee Daggett.
Yeah, just real quick. So I know we've had a lot of discussion about fiscal responsibility. We're a bottom line corporation, really, but that's driven by our village services and taking care of our residents. Since I've been on the board, I've seen staff constantly and consistently have a sober judgment of where we stand financially and constantly bring us worst case scenario situations and suggestions on what we can do differently. I feel like this is a very active part. One of my first board meetings, I was presented with the sewer and water fund, and I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, it freaked me out. So I'm like, what are we gonna do about this? But we're constantly having those discussions and constantly looking at what can be done. Are we doing this right? That's from department all the way up to village manager, and we're constantly brought those things. So I don't want the community to think that there's even smoke there, because I don't think there is. There's definitely not a fire. If there are tools that we can put in place to help us evaluate that, great. But from my perspective and the involvement that I've been with the village for about 5 years now, I've seen nothing but fiscal responsibility in the decisions we've made, and that's been corroborated and reinforced by outside sources such as our audits, and even questions that I've asked other communities about how they operate, because I've got friends on other village boards, and I ask when they get information and how they get information. And one of them looked at the financial information that we get, and they were like, oh, I would love to have this. So I don't want the community to think that we're being fiscally irresponsible. That is, in my opinion, that is not the case. So I just wanted to make sure that I made a note on that. So other than that, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Dorsey.
I have nothing else to add.
Thank you. Trustee Lofton.
I have nothing else.
Thank you. Trustee Mikros.
We had just as a little background, we had an economic commission that was part of the village for years, and we had great residents that meant well. It was a big expense and a time-consuming endeavor, and we never really came up with anything. So we disbanded that, and it wasn't because it wasn't because people were bad or the staff was bad. It was just that it's hard to do it that way. Everyone has good intentions. No one's got the time. And it was just involved, and it didn't work out well. So, yeah, well, it's basically defunct now. So I would endeavor to say that the way we're doing it, we need outside experts. Whenever we talk about funding marketing, I remember when we were trying to market the village, and I talked to a high-powered marketing executive. They're like, well, what's your budget? And I was thinking, I've got to impress this person, and so I was throwing $50,000. And you know what she said to me? That won't even get you to sit down with us if you wanted to do something like that. So we need to keep working on other ways other than, I think, that. And Gary, you're exactly right. We're fiscally, all we do is plan and plan. And we plan for the worst all the time. And I got to give it to the staff, because they're looking out for us. This is a village. We have employees that care about this village, and they want to be employees in this village, and they protect us. And I'm so grateful that we have that type of a resource. And lastly, but I want to say to everyone, happy Thanksgiving. And that's all I got. Yeah.
Thank you. Clerk Porter.
And I have nothing further other than wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving as well.
Thank you. Village Attorney.
Happy Thanksgiving. If you got a good key lime pie recipe, please send it my way.
I think one of the trustees in Homewood makes a killer key lime pie.
Because we had an epic fail at my house, so.
Jewel sells real key lime. I'll get my daughter's recipe for you.
Village Manager. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, Bridget, sorry.
Sorry?
Just real quick, there's a newsletter on your front over the dais. Everyone has a new newsletter. I just wanted to point out that real quickly right there. This is a new design after 10 years of the same one. And one of the things that we've been working with, and if you've been looking at communications for the last couple of years, we've really done a lot of work internally and externally. We did do a survey, an informal survey through our e-newsletter and just a quick forum to see how people are consuming the reports or consuming communication in general. We found that many of our neighboring communities have gotten rid of their print newsletter, but our residents still said that they still use it as one of the main portions of what they review for the newsletter. Other things that I wanted to point out is we traditionally work with the designer, outside designer who's done wonderful work with the village. We are very lucky to have our communications manager as assistant to the village manager, Nicole Costadna, who designed this complete, she's right over there. She did this redesign. She's got a great eye for these different things. And you'll see a really readable document that has great pictures that she also takes, great information, calendar, department information, and a whole new section of academic development that we're going to really push. So that's a new feature in there that we wanted to make sure we had. And I think it's a way that we're doing stuff in-house that looks fresh, and I wanted to give a shout out to her and her work, and hopefully you guys like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Shout out to Nicole Costagna. Along the line of development, I'll give you a couple of quick updates. The vacant lot on Flossmoor Road, they produced proof of financing, and they're working on their construction documents now. They have started pre-sales, and they put ads in the November and December HF Chronicle edition, so you can check out what they're doing there. On Governor's Highway, the board in December, the board will be presented with an agreement proposal for a commercial high-end event space for 500 folks. So I'm really excited about that. That's also on village-owned property. We are also going to present to the board a proposed commercial space having to do with film and movies for the village-owned land north of 198th Street, just east of Meyer. That's also coming down the pipeline for you, so I'm really excited about that. That opportunity came from a resident who recommended somebody else. Another resident who I've been talking with for 5 years now on the bigger parcel on Homewood Road, just east of Meyer, finally came up with some sketch plans. So that's something that'll take a little bit longer to massage and work out, but that's another opportunity that if we don't talk about it in December, hoping to talk about it in January. So making some great progress, and I'm really excited about what's coming up. Also, I want to thank everybody who has donated food to the food drive. Our township pantries are in great need of food. So if you can continue to drop off items for the pantries or share the word, we'll be accepting those until Wednesday. Also on Wednesday night at Beyond Borders, Chris Condon was going to be talking about her book, Fragments of Flossmoor, and highlighting stories of veterans. She is so clever. She's done so much great research on Flossmoor history. If you have a chance to stop by Beyond Borders on Wednesday night to meet her, I guarantee you will enjoy yourself. On Thursday, the South Suburban Archaeological Society, in conjunction with HF Robotics, which is my organization, and also Flossmoor History, they're going to be giving a presentation on the Horton Dig, which occurred over on Butterfield Drive, just west of Western Avenue in the 1960s. The kiddo, who is now a grown adult, who was credited with discovering the site in 1964, is coming back to Flossmoor to talk about that dig that was done in conjunction with the Field Museum. So pretty exciting. That'll be at Irwin Center in Homewood at 6:45 on Thursday. On Sunday at 7 p.m. at All Nations Church in Homewood is the 53rd annual Thanksgiving gathering. HF choirs and their gospel choir will be there performing, and I hope you all can join us for that. It's a really fun evening. Let's see, Saturday, November 29th, Small Business Saturday. We'll be doing a ribbon cutting for our downtown area at 2 p.m. And then from 3 to 5, there are activities for families, and then at 5:30, there is a tree lighting. Also that day, Tom Dobres, in conjunction with Flossmoor History, is going to be doing a showing of a movie that he put together about Flossmoor history, and he actually asked me if I would invite all of the board members to show up that day. If you are interested in show times, there's 2 different show times. You can go to flossmoorhistorybook.com. It is wonderfully filmed. The narration on it is incredible, and I think everybody's going to love it. And I think that's it for now. I've talked long enough. Chief Kopech's giving me the hook. Happy Thanksgiving, and thank you all for being here tonight. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.